Hello everybody, welcome back to Flaggermata Productions. So I know I haven't done a video in a very long time, of course things have been going on. I've been exploring new paths in life and stuff like that. But one of the ways I wanted to one of these new paths is now looking like it might something involving these videos. Because I think I'm going to take a shot at doing these quick, more like explainer type videos, sort of like similar to like the sexiest politicians, the top 10 sexiest politicians. I realized there was a way to do that through this way instead, and this way it's probably more easier to get to show off, facts that I've always wanted to share, but I don't get to share often. So without further ado, I guess one of the first if you guys end up liking these videos, I'll just keep doing more of them because they don't take a ton of effort to make. They're pretty yeah, and I get to share what's interesting to me. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. So first topic I wanted to explore was national capitals which aren't derived from the national language of the country. So, what do I mean? I think a lot of us, when we conceive of, a country's capital, we think that it must come from their language. Like, for example, Serbia. Belgrade, or Beograd in Serbian, it actually comes from Serbian. It means white city. In the Serbian language, and a lot of cities in Serbia are like this, like Novi Sad, that means new village or something like that. And yeah, this is true for a lot of countries. Like, I mean, you can see the etymological root of United States comes from English. Washington, it's named after George Washington. You can see Beijing. In China, it means northern capital in Chinese. North Korea, Pyongyang, means flat land. Tokyo, it means eastern capital. Ulaanbaatar, which means red hero or something like that in Mongolian. Or Astana, I know I'm rambling on, but Astana in Kazakhstan, I'm just listing off. That means literally capital. But this is not the case for all countries. And today, I'm going to dive into the ones that the city that they have to represent their whole country isn't even named in their own language. Or is derived from a completely different language. And so, I don't know if some of you might be okay with that. I think that's kind of weird, and I think that's kind of, but whatever. I don't know, something that's never really settled with me, so I just kind of want to explore it a bit with you. So, without further ado, the first one is the UK, and London is its capital. And London is not, for all the controversy that it gets, like Londonderry here, the Irish people hate that London's inserted in front of Derry, but the truth is London's not even an English word, really. London does not come from any Germanic language. London comes from a Celtic language. It comes from, it was probably very similar to Welsh and Cornish. But, yeah, London is actually derived from the native people, the Celts that were the native inhabitants of the island before, the English, who are just Low Germans, immigrated there en masse and colonized the whole place. So, yeah, they have, number one, London is not derived from Germanic English. It is derived from Celts, the same Celts that they eventually went on to enslave and stuff. So, yeah, number one is the UK, a very patriotic country, but they can't even name their own capital in their own language. And number two, speaking of Germany, is Berlin, Germany. You might think, yeah, for a long time, I thought it must have had some meaning in German, but the truth is it's not. It doesn't even come from German. It comes from a Slavic language, Polabian, which is also, the native inhabitants of this land were Slavs. They were Polabians, which were pretty similar to the Poles and Czechs, but they were sort of an offshoot. And Berlin, Berlin comes from the Polabian root birl or berl, which means swamp, which is appropriate because the whole region is located in a swamp, a drained swamp. And that's also why the city sinks so much, and you can't even build heavy buildings there, but that's a different thing. But yeah, Berlin is a Slavic word. It's not even German. So it's pretty weird. And Germans, they used to hate Slavs so much, but they kept the Slavic name for their new capital city. And come to think of it, if you also notice, like, all of the more eastern parts of Germany, the more eastern you go, pretty much all the regions, all the names in this, like, East Germany, are all derived from, like, most of them are derived from Slavic. Like, Leipzig, that is derived from a Slavic, like Lipschitz, something like that. Dresden, that's derived from Slavic Drezdani. Potsdam, that's derived from Slavic Cottbus, that's derived from Slavic Holzenbusch, something like that. Rostock, yes, Rostock, that just doesn't even sound German. Schwerin, it's derived from Slavic. What else? Around Berlin, even all like the regular just like the district names of the surrounding names, like Teltow, that's definitely not Trebin, Tausen. There was Sosny in the ancient language in Polabian, or in I think the Sorbians used to live there before they were driven out. What else? There was a district, Spandau. It used to be Spandau. Kleinmachno. Typically when you see OW, like ITZ, those types of endings, it's derived from Slavic. AU, it's usually derived from Slavic. It's a Slavicization. Germany, like, converts ov into au. There's Galinik, which is Slavic, yes. What else? Lots of districts here, and they're all pretty Kladov, Klado, Gato. It's all Slavic derived. Yes. So two Germanic countries, and they both don't even have Germanic capital names. So moving on next. Well, I guess sort of an dishonorable mention here would be Italy too. Believe it or not, Rome or Roma does not even come from an Italic language. It comes from the native inhabitants, whoever they were. So I think it was a pre-Indo-European word, or it possibly could be a Celtic word. It doesn't. There was a legend that said it comes from Romulus, who was an emperor, but the truth is, that's not really true. The truth is, Romulus derived his name from the name Rome, from the name of the city. But people have not been able to pinpoint its exact etymological origin, but it definitely did not come from any Italic or language. It did not come from Latin. So next we go to the biggest country in the world, Russia, the Russian Federation, and their capital, Moskva. It's a word that's pretty much synonymous with Russiandom, but it doesn't even derive from Russian or even any Slavic language. In fact, the name Moskva derives from a Finnic language, which means, yes, it's a language that's related to the language of Finland. which means in the past, Finnic people who were related to Finns and Estonians used to live in the Moscow area, and they called the area like Muscovice or Muscovit, something like that. And the Russians, the Rus, they came and they changed it to Moskva. So, yeah, Russia's pretty all full of these, capitals derived from different names, different languages. There are, and a lot of these is because the people there living there are actually not even Russians. Like Astrakhan, that's an Asian, obviously Asian. That's not Slavic. And then in Crimea and also in Ukraine, there's lots of names derived from Greek, like Sevastopol. This is derived from the Greek Sevastopolis, because Greeks used to live in this area a long time ago. They conquered it during some wars. The Pol ending, Melitopol, Mariupol, Kherson. A lot of these places that are famous in the news, these are actually derived from. These are Greek names. There's lots of Ufa. That's a Turkic word, but this place is inhabited primarily by Turkic people. I think it's the Republic of something, like which is an entity within the Russian Federation that's supposed to be for like a minority people. In this case, it's a Turkic people. I forgot who they are, though. But yeah, Moscow, not a Russian word, really. What next? Oh, we go back out west. I should have done this earlier, but Spain and Madrid is not derived from Spanish. Madrid is actually derived from Arabic. Believe it or not. Yes. And in fact, a lot of other names there, like Gibraltar, that's actually derived from the Arabic Gibraltaric, something which means like city of Tariq or something like that. Spain has a lot of Arabic names, because the Muslims used to rule over the whole peninsula, like 500 years ago or something like that. So that's why, there's still lots of Arabic names. Oh, here's Valladolid. That's another name. It doesn't derive from Spanish, but it doesn't derive from Arabic either. I think that comes from like the pre-Indo-European, the indigenous people again. So what's next? Let's finish off with, Uzbekistan. And Uzbek, the Uzbek people, they're a Turkic people, which means they're in the same, they're related in the same linguistic group as the Turks. As the Turks in Turkey now, and Turkmenistan, and Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. But, believe it or not, the capital of Uzbekistan, Tashkent, is not a Turkic word. That actually derived from Sogdian, which is an ancient form of Iranian or Persian. And these are completely, despite their geographical proximity, they're completely unrelated. Iranian and Persian is an Indo-European language, which means it's literally closer to German than it is to Turkish. Whereas the Turkic languages, they are just their own family group. They're called the Turkic languages, and they're non-Indo-European. So completely different etymological, genealogical root. Tashkent is actually Iranian, an Iranian word. And as is neighboring Turkmenistan, their capital Ashgabat is also derived from Sogdian. And as is a lot of these cities in the region, like Samarkand, like lots of these cities that may sound perfectly Turkic at first, but they're actually derived from Persian, more or less. Yeah. Okay, and finally, and also get some more non-capitals that are derived from a different language. In China, yeah, like most of the things seem pretty simple at first. Like you meet in more or less in the Han populated areas, or areas where Han were the native people. You can see lots of names that are just derived from the Han language, so they'll usually have like two. They'll have like a clear name in the language, a clear etymological root, like like Beijing means northern capital, like Shanghai means on the sea, like for example. So they usually have a clear name, but that's not the case in Manchuria or northeastern China. Here, there's lots of names that don't derive from Chinese, so they don't even have a meaning, a literal meaning. And one of these is Harbin, for example. Harbin, this is actually derived from the Manchu language. In Manchu, it's Halbin or something like that. And yeah, it literally means nothing in literal Chinese. Like, if you dissect them word by word. Unlike, say, Changchun, the capital of neighboring Jilin, where it literally means long spring. But there is no such meaning for Harbin. Or Qiqihar up here. This is derived from the Mongolian language because it's close to Inner Mongolia and there's lots of Mongols living there. And then there's also the curious case of Jilin, that province, which, even though it has a literal meaning in Chinese, it's just coincidental. The truth is, Jilin is derived from Manchu as well. It's derived from the Manchu word Kirin Wula, which means right across the river, the Yalu River in this case. Yeah, so even though that's one case where even after they etymologically butchered it and converted it into sinicized it, Kirin Wula became Jilin, which actually ended up having a literal meaning, which is, I think, Lin means forest, and Ji, I think it means panicked forest. I don't know, something retarded like that. But coincidentally, it happened to transliterate into a literal meaning that actually had something that it meant. Yeah, cool. So, yeah, and you see a pretty similar theme here in North and South Korea. All of the names will have a literal meaning for the most part. Yet to see any city here that's really derived from a different language. Maybe Sogwipo, maybe that's different, because Jeju speaks a different language from regular Korea. Yeah. So there we have it. There's some 5 of, well, maybe 7 at this point of the offenders of, having a national capital that's not derived from their own language. However, I guess let that color your pride. Maybe if you're German, you should consider changing the name of your capital city if you're really nationalistic and stuff. Berlin just sounds pretty weird. But yeah, thank you all for watching. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me to make more, if that's the case. And I will see you later.